Oh my word, where do I start? Where do I start? I'm going to warn you from the outset that you may hear in this presentation the sort of language that people exhibit when they are provoked. Some may choose to be offended by that. Some may see it as being authentic language that is fully justified by the nature of the provocation. YouTubers. We have a F1 YouTuber called Cameron F1. Some of you may have heard of him. He has over 14,000 subscribers. So he can inform and influence the minds of over 14,000 people. His videos, some of them have been seen by over 100,000 people. That is the level of influence that certain people can exert over the minds of people. He produced a video yesterday called The Top 5 Reasons You Can't Blame Massey for Abu Dhabi 2021. Already that video has been seen by 9.3 thousand people. So I'm going to scrutinise it and I'm going to show you just how obscenely ridiculous this is. So this is the footage. This is his video, The Top 5 Reasons You Can't Blame Michael Massey for Abu Dhabi 2021. So let's go through these 5 reasons, Cameron.
Everyone has said, me included, the stewards included, the last thing any of us want is for this to A, be decided in the stewards room or weeks to come in the Court of Appeal.
This is the footage that Cameron has put together as the forerunner to his video. Now, to the conditioned mind, this is footage that we've just seen before, we've heard before. It's normal, it's normal, it's normal. What you've just seen should set alarm bells ringing. I want to play you two again. So, here we go.
Is for this to A, be decided in the stewards room or weeks to come in the Court of Appeal.
Why is Massey giving an interview before the race saying we don't want to see this decided in the stewards room or weeks later in the Court of Appeal? Tell me a sport where, let's say it's the Football World Cup final. Does a referee on the pitch, a referee that's due to referee the game, give an interview saying, yeah, me and the 2 linesmen, we've all had this discussion and we want to make sure that it doesn't end up with an appeal after the game or, this match being decided in the Court of Appeal in a few weeks' time? Have you ever heard that from any official? Have you ever heard that from any official ahead of an event saying, well, we don't want this event determined in the Court of Appeal in a few weeks' time? Should that not get you to ask questions? Why would anybody even say that? Why would anybody say that? And for those of you that can't even get your head around that question, you're not going to understand this video. You're not going to understand it. You've been conditioned. You won't be awoken to the truth of the situation by this video. So you might as well switch off now. Those of you that are actually questioning a few things now, thinking, that is a bit strange. I'm going to tell you ahead of Cameron's video the situation of racing that you've probably never heard explained like this before. When a safety incident occurs in a motor race, the racing stops. Okay? That's the simplicity of it. When something happens that's a safety concern, they stop racing. Okay? Simple as that. So, whether it's a double wave yellow, they cannot be racing during that period. They have to slow down and they're not allowed to pass each other as they pass the incident. They're not racing past that incident. When it's a virtual safety car, they all have to slow down to a delta. They can't overtake. They're not racing. Okay? It becomes neutralised. If it's a safety car situation, the racing stops. The racing stops. And then the incident is dealt with. Okay, they parade round behind the safety car under a controlled speed, but they're not racing. If the race has to be red flagged, the race stops. The racing stops for all competitors. No exceptions. All competitors in the race have to stop racing. So in the instance of safety car and red flagged where it will be restarted, the only way you restart the racing is to ensure that the conditions are reset for every competitor in that race, so that racing resumes in a fair way to every competitor that is still competing. That's pretty simple, isn't it? It's pretty simple to understand that. You can't say, well, we've stopped racing, but now when we restart racing, we're only going to allow racing just between first and second, or we're not bothered about the race between 6th and 7th. Nobody's bothered about that one. 11th, you can race 12th, but we're not bothered about 13th. You can't pick and choose like that. That's not the way it works. To resume racing, you have to ensure conditions are satisfied, ensure that the conditions are reset for all competitors, and so that that race resumes in a fair state for every competitor. Not difficult, is it? Now, here's the thing that's going to surprise you. Since 2012, the regulations have been written in a way that depicts that. Since 2012. And since 2012, the regulations have been interpreted as in you've complied with the regulations, where that's been the case. They've always done it. They've always done it. Under Charlie Whiting, under Michael Massey's apprenticeship, under Michael Massey as race director, they've always done it. 10 seasons. It's not ambiguous. Nobody's confused by it. It's pretty straightforward. You've not seen it done any other way since 2012. You've been lied to. The commentators of the sport lie about the situation. They give their opinions as to what they'd like to see that don't comply with those rules. You've never had them rules explained in that way, which you've got to be asking questions about, but you never have. But that's what they are, and that's what they're for. That's what sport rules are there for a purpose, for a reason. They're not complicated, they're not difficult to understand, they're straightforward. For a clearly, easily understood purpose that you can't argue with. Why would you argue with that? Why would you argue for the fact that, oh, when we resume the race, all we care about is just making sure first can race second. It doesn't matter if third can't race for second. I'm not interested in that. And it doesn't matter if we hold fifth back so they can't challenge fourth very easily. And it doesn't matter if we leave seventh 2/3 of the way of a lap behind sixth, even though before this safety incident occurred, they're only 10 seconds behind them. But, it doesn't matter. All we care about, who would argue for that set of rules and regulations? Nobody. That's quite simple. But nobody, including our friend Cameron F1 here, he doesn't tell you that. Think of any other F1 YouTuber that you follow. Do they tell you that? Why is that? Is it because they're just validators? Or is it that they've put themselves in this space as being somehow knowledgeable about the sport of Formula One, when actually they know fuck all? They know fuck all. But instead, all they're trying to do is earn their little bit of money out of the space, and are willing to sell their fucking soul and lie and present bullshit just for clicks, just to get subscribers, just to get the likes from the Max fans. Keep them happy. Don't say anything that's going to upset them. Okay? Validate the fakeness, and we get clicks and we get a bit of money. Happy days. Anyway, enough of that, but bear it in mind. Bear it in mind as we go through, and we will have a listen to what Cameron's got to say.
Mercedes not happy. Red Bull will be delighted. Max Verstappen is champion of the world.
A sequence of events that none of us have seen before.
The two contenders equal on points, side by side on the front row of the grid. You could not write a better plot than this.
You could not write a better plot than this. Well, you couldn't write a better one, but you could write that one.
First lap, Hamilton took the lead. Then, as Verstappen tried to overtake, Hamilton left the track, cut a corner and stayed in front.
Hamilton left the track, cut the corner and stayed in front. Well, had he not done that, Max Verstappen would have hit him, potentially taking him out of the race. But as the stewarding has been all year, Max Verstappen doesn't get penalised for those late lunges, which, unless the other driver moves to get out of the way, would result in a collision. That is not acceptable driving. That is dangerous driving. But that was permitted in 2021. We call that let them race, Michael, says Christian. Nobody calls it out. Validators. Okay? They focus on, oh, Lewis needs to give that place back. No, he doesn't. We've just had an illegal move by a late lunging car that would have hit him had he have not evaded the collision. He's left the track to evade the collision. And you want him to give a place back? No. Learn about the sport, learn about the rules of the sport, learn about what constitutes acceptable racing, acceptable driving. Max Verstappen's driving was not acceptable, should have been penalised, should have resulted in race penalties and penalty points on his licence, none of which you saw in 2021. But I'll take you through that as I get the time.
And with 5 laps to go, the Canadian driver Nicholas Latifi crashed. There was debris all over the track. The cars didn't stop, but they stopped racing, and they now follow the...
Oh, they stopped racing. Funny that. I wonder what I just said.
Safety car. These laps counted, so if the safety car did 5 laps, Hamilton would be world champion. But with the final lap approaching, the race director ordered the safety car to come in, and as the championship reached...
He ordered the safety car to come in. Okay? So, that chap there, Ros Atkins, I think his name is. No relation. He just doesn't focus on anything other, doesn't expose the fact that he called the safety car in without creating fair conditions to every competitor in that race. That fact is somehow omitted, as it has been omitted everywhere, because no media has ever told the facts. Look what happened here. All that happened is he didn't care about every competitor in that race, which was a Grand Prix, which you have to consider every competitor in the event, because a Grand Prix is a Grand Prix contested by 20 entrants, and you have to consider them at each and every of those events. It doesn't matter that it was the last race of the season. It doesn't matter that there are only 2 people in contention to win the title. It's still a Grand Prix, and the conditions have to be fair to every competitor in order to resume racing at that Grand Prix. But that was a BBC. That was a BBC not identifying the simplistic nature of what actually took place.
Its finale, Verstappen passed Hamilton, fended off a counter-attack and won.
Michael, this isn't right. Michael.
Go ahead, Toto.
You need to reinstate the lap before. That's not right.
Toto?
Yes.
It's called a motor race, okay?
Turn sound on.
Oh, so what you've done there, Cameron, you've selected the option of having adverts flag up within your videos to earn you extra money I could select that option for mine, but I don't, because I don't want to bore the shit out of people with these adverts, because I'm not that bothered about the money. I'm just more bothered about exposing the fucking truth. Shows you what you're in it for.
Coming for a hearing test. So what have you been noticing about your hearing? Tell me about your hearing.
68% of people in the...
Fuck off.
Controversially, just a tad. But why? Well,
Controversially, just a tad. But why?
Because it was Lewis, because it was Max, because it was bad blood, because of the stakes. Because after 21 races and 57 laps.
But why? For none of them reasons that you've just given, Cameron. You've just said things which have got no relevance. Okay? The simplistic matter is the championship was accepted as going down to the last race of the season. We can debate the rights and wrongs of the season. We can debate the fact that they had the Belgian parade in that season, which wasn't a race, and yet somebody was declared a winner of something that was not even sport, where there was no competition, nothing was being competed for, and yet somebody was declared a winner. We could argue the merits of that, where somebody got 5 more points than the other person. We could debate all of the decisions made where what constitutes dangerous and illegal driving went unpunished to enable a certain driver to drive that certain way without penalty, to enable them to keep picking up points and not get race bans. We could debate all that. I'm sure the strap-on fans will want to jump up and debate, but what about Bahrain? What about Bahrain? I'll talk you through Bahrain. Because again, that's something that you don't really understand the dynamics of Formula 1 if you think that Bahrain was truly a problem. But again, I will explain that as and when I get time. But Cameron, let's get back to what you've got to say.
Michael Massey would change the course of F1 history.
Actually, before I do, I hadn't finished what I was going to say. We accepted that the season had gone down to the last race. Whoever finished ahead and in a point scoring position would be the 2021 world champion. That's how that event was billed. That's what the build-up told us was going to happen. That's what we'd seen over the course of the season. We weren't happy with some of the things that we saw, but it took us down to that final event. And it was a case of whoever finishes ahead and in the points will be world champion. That's what mattered. That is what mattered. And what was playing out, and what did play out for 57 laps, was Lewis Hamilton was winning that event and on course to win both the race and the world championship. And had the rules of the sport not been broken, knowingly broken, that would have been the result of the championship. Lewis Hamilton would have won. Instead, the race director knowingly broke the rules in the knowledge that he was going to hand a significant advantage to Max Verstappen. In that knowledge. And he did it. And the outcome of the World Championship was changed on that one lap that was manufactured illegally. That is the crux of the matter. That is entirely the crux of the matter, nothing else. But let's hear what the 5 reasons you can't blame Massey for that for are. Let's go through them.
With 5 simple words: safety car in this lap. And with this, Massey had cast himself in a pivotal role in what would be the final act of an era-defining championship.
Michael Massey, the race director, I think is a man very keen. If he can possibly do it.
An era-defining championship.
Will finish as a race, not behind the safety car.
The last race.
Crofty. Let's see what Crofty has to say. And again, this is something that you've picked out to put in your video, Cameron.
championship.
Michael Massey, the race director, I think is a man very keen. If he can possibly do it, will finish as a race, not behind the safety car.
That's not your job as a referee in a sport, as a race director. Your job is to carry out the procedures in accordance with the rules of the sport. And if those procedures, if those rules determine that that race ends behind the safety car, that's what you do. Those procedures are not a judgment call. They are a set of procedures that must be carried out relative to the circumstances that are going on. So you can't say, oh, this is a sort of referee that does not like to see a 0-0 draw. He will do whatever he can to ensure at least one team scores a goal in that game. That's effectively what you're saying. That's bullshit. That's not what sport is. You cannot engineer and manufacture outcomes. That's not organic sport. That's not authentic sport. That's a bullshit statement by Crofty there to condition people's minds to think, oh, this is an acceptable position to take. The race director was within his rights to ensure that that race didn't end behind the safety car. Challenge your mind, because that is not an acceptable justification in any way whatsoever.
Last race in the last lap, it's unbelievable. In terms of this,
it's unbelievable. Why shouldn't we believe it? Because it isn't fucking organic, and therefore you question its authenticity because it's not believable, because it's fake.
Yeah, for a turn like that, I'm not so sure.
Confirmation of that protest is just dropped right now. They're protesting the outcome of the race.
The situation we're at the moment is that the initial protests have been rejected by the stewards' inquiry.
Why? Who has taken us through why the initial protests were rejected? That would be me. Don't see anybody else calling out the corruption there. Don't see anybody else.
Do you think Michael Massey has directed his last race now?
Good question.
The FIA say that Michael Massey has lost his current role as race director.
Michael Massey. What's Michael Massey doing in the paddock?
But 20 months have been and gone since, and you know, I think it's worth us taking a fresh look at this. All you'll need is an open mind.
All you'll need is an open mind. Okay. All right, Cameron. Let's have a think what constitutes an open mind. All you'll need is an ability to determine what is true and what is utter bollocks and what is utterly irrelevant. Okay? Utterly irrelevant.
What we're not going to do is burn Michael Massey at the stake again. That narrative's tired. The market for that saturated.
What's a narrative, Cameron? What's a narrative? A narrative is a version of events that people want you to believe, want to convince you of. That's what a narrative is.
Nah. In this, the top 5 reasons why you can't blame Michael Massey for Abu Dhabi 21. We'll be challenging conventional wisdom.
Challenging conventional wisdom. Let's see how well you challenge conventional wisdom with your wisdom, Cameron F1.
Stress testing the assumptions.
Stress testing the assumptions. Stress testing this. Your presentation is going to stress test the assumptions. Now, let's be clear. Stress testing involves subjecting the issues under evaluation to numerous tests to determine how well they stand up to scrutiny and whether their robustness is fallible. Let's see if you do that then, Cameron. Let's see if you do that. Have you ever thought of a peer review? Who's your peers? This isn't a peer review because you're not my peer, Cameron. This is the equivalent of a university professor marking a 6-year-old's homework where they've been asked to write a story about what they did in the summer holidays. Because you know fuck all.
Underline generally accepted fact. Now, all teammates are created equally, but some are more equal than that. Stress testing the assumptions underline generally accepted fact.
underlying generally accepted fact. Stress test the assumptions that underlie generally accepted fact. So we are looking at the 5 reasons you can't blame Michael Massey for Abu Dhabi 2021. Because we're going to stress test the assumptions that underlie generally accepted fact. Right, the fact is, it either is or it isn't. It's binary. Yes or no. Is it fact? Is it isn't? Is it not? What's generally accepted fact? Okay? It's a fact that the rules of a sport exist for fairness within sport. Fairness to all competitors. That's what the rules exist for. If we're not bothered about fairness to all competitors, why bother with rules? The regulations regarding the safety car are a set of parameters. So there are a set of procedures that must be carried out prior to the resumption of racing to ensure sporting fairness to all competitors, as dictated by the FIA International Sporting Code. That's fact. That is what it is. It's not generally accepted. It just is. Anyway, point number 5. Here we go.
Now, all teammates are created equally, but some are more equal than others. And when Checo was called on by the team at Turkey...
Hang on a minute. Hang on. The top 5 reasons you can't blame Michael Massey for Abu Dhabi 21 is the teammates. What? What? What are you talking about? Oh, you can't blame the referee for cheating Manchester City out of the Champions League final by giving Real Madrid a penalty when the Real Madrid player was fouled on the halfway line. You can't blame the referee for making that corrupt decision because Nathan Ake didn't have a very good season and the Real Madrid centre-back had a better season. What the fuck are you talking about? Teammates? How is that a factor in Michael Massey making a corrupt decision that determined the outcome of the championship? A corrupt decision which produced that last lap which should not have been. You're blaming on Valtteri Bottas' performance that season compared to Sergio Perez's performance that season. What the fuck are you even talking about? It's fucking ludicrous.
And Abu Dhabi, he showed up huge, being just enough of a thorn in Lewis Hamilton's side to make a difference. Case in point, whenever Max would find himself on the same...
Oh, the reason you can't blame the referee for making a corrupt decision is that defender was really good. Fuck me, mate. This is a knowledgeable fucking Formula 1 YouTuber, or so he thinks, or so he presents himself as being knowledgeable. You're a fake fucking validator. You're a snake.
Piece of track as Checo, he wouldn't even have to lift.
And he can give his teammate a bit of DRS for good measure. So great team play. That's the team play we talked about earlier on. Now he gets clean out of the way. Oh, Checo is a legend.
In stark contrast though.
Yeah, it's fully valid that the referee cheated to give Manchester City a penalty against Liverpool because Kevin De Bruyne is good at making assists. What the fuck are you going on about, mate? What the fuck are you talking about?
Over at Mercedes, on occasion, Valtteri Bottas would prove more antagonist than ally.
Valtteri's not in contention necessarily.
Yeah, and Mo Salah doesn't pass the ball, does he? So it's fully deserved that the referee gave Manchester City a penalty that he shouldn't have given.
For the win, as is going to happen.
He's going to turn in on him. Whoa.
I mean, the stubbornness in Spain, but the Finn would go on to outdo himself at Zandvoort, forcing Hamilton into an unscheduled pit stop.
Valtteri, it's James. Please abort the fastest lap attempt.
Yeah, the reason that Michael Massey cheated in Abu Dhabi was because Lewis Hamilton's teammate at the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort didn't help Lewis out. Thanks for your insight there, Cameron. Thanks for your fucking insight.
For the end of the lap.
When he'd seized the fastest lap and the championship point that comes with it for himself.
He's still got...
Oh, how inconsiderate.
The fastest lap, though. Oh, no. Crucial thing for Hamilton is can he get the fastest lap of the
not relevant, mate.
race?
All told, Bottas had been MIA for most of the season, leaving his teammate Lewis to fight off.
MIA, mate. To all you gamers out there, that means missing in action.
Perez and Verstappen single-handedly. No fair. I mean, you only need to think back to Mexico, where Bottas made the schoolboy error of not defending turn 1, lap 1.
All these strap-on fans can relate to these schoolboy errors. They're still making them because they're still in school.
And the outside to Max Verstappen.
So on we go. Verstappen is into the lead ahead of Hamilton. Bottas gets tagged.
And this left Lewis vulnerable late onto a charging Checo Perez.
And there we go.
Yet another valid reason why you can't blame Michael Massey for doing what he did at Abu Dhabi. Yeah, this is fantastic evidence that you're presenting here, Cameron. Fantastic evidence. I'm convinced already. Brilliant. You don't need to make the other 4 points. This is enough to convince me that we can't blame Michael Massey for what he did at Abu Dhabi 21. Fuck me.
Is that the lunge? It would have been a bit wild if it had been.
Think France, Bottas had one job: defend Max Verstappen. And critically, when it mattered for all the mob...
Oh, that's right, Cameron. The reason that we can't blame Michael Massey in Abu Dhabi is because Valtteri Bottas didn't defend well against Max Verstappen in France. Oh, is that right, Cameron? Is that right? That's a damn good reason. Yeah, hell yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. Fuck me. People subscribe to this shit. People subscribe to this shit.
In Abu Dhabi, Bottas was a no-show, inconspicuous in his absence. I mean, he had the fastest car but qualified 6th. He'd be down to 8th as soon as the first lap. What's that about? There'd be no holding up of Verstappen like there was Lewis. Bottas would finish the race in 7th. He's only meaning...
Bottas finished the race in 7th. Are you talking about Abu Dhabi? Let me just think about this. So when that illegal last lap started, we had Lewis Hamilton on his 44-lap-old hard tyres in 1st. We had Max Verstappen on his fresh soft tyres in 2nd. Then we had Daniel Ricciardo, who was in 12th position, and then behind him we had Lance Stroll in 13th position. Then we had in 3rd place, but now 2.5 seconds behind Verstappen, so unable to challenge on that last lap, we had Carlos Sainz in a Ferrari. We had Valtteri Bottas in 4th place behind Sainz, and Valtteri had got about 30 odd lap hard tyres on. And then after Valtteri wasn't 5th place and 6th place, in between Valtteri and 5th and 6th was Mick Schumacher in a Haas, which meant when that lap started, 5th and 6th weren't half a second behind Valtteri. They were a second behind. They had this lapped car in between, which would have got blue flagged, but it still held them back from being able to challenge Valtteri. Those two Alpha Tauris, Red Bull B team drivers, they were on fresh tyres too. What did they know? But they were on fresh tyres too. And they both got past the back marker, even though they started the lap a second behind Valtteri. And those two cars, two Alpha Tauris that aren't as good as Red Bulls, those two cars managed to get past that Mercedes on 30 odd lap hard tyres on that last lap. Both of them. So Valtteri then finished in 6th because he didn't finish in 7th. In 7th position was Lando Norris. And Lando Norris was 2/3 of a lap back because he wasn't allowed to be involved in that race. So let's just fact check what we're putting. I'm not saying that I know more facts than you about Abu Dhabi, Cameron. With you being the expert with your 14,000 followers and the minds that you're able to condition. Just saying that, you know, that's my opinion, Cameron, but let me know what you think in the comments section.
For contribution to the race was jumping in the pool afterwards to celebrate his stint with Mercedes, and this against the backdrop of Lewis's controversial loss. Cheers, mate.
Oh yeah, more money, cha-ching, 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 in video ads. Right, number 4.
The truth of it, they were bad.
Right, so let's go back to the video. The top 5 reasons you can't blame Michael Masi for Abu Dhabi 2021. You can't blame him because of Horner's Red Bull. You can't blame Michael Masi for what he did in manufacturing that last lap. You can't blame him because of Horner's Red Bull. Somebody tell me what the relevance of this is. You tell us, Cameron. Tell us, Cameron.
Better everywhere. They were more clinical in their decision making, more agile in their operation. They outmaneuvered.
What's either team's influence? You can't blame the referee for giving that penalty to Manchester City or to Real Madrid in that final that they shouldn't have got because the foul was on the halfway line, so they shouldn't have been given the penalty for it. But you can't blame the referee for doing that because Real Madrid, their management were more clinical. Fucking great analysis that is, Cameron. Fucking top marks. Top marks.
Maneuvered their competition at almost every single turn, not least in Abu Dhabi.
Even though the company has grown to 3 times the size that when Red Bull came into the sport, we've had that dynamic ability to move and adapt quickly.
So,
what did you say there? Fuck all. Waffle noise. Is this relevant? Oh, we've had that ability to move quickly. That's the Mel Cameron impression there.
Ruthless were Horner's lot in AD. They'd used Checo Perez as a sacrificial lamb, as bait.
A sacrificial lamb? Is that why they retired him? When lapping behind the safety car? When they're on course for a 2-3 in the race? 2-3 on that podium. So 2 Red Bull drivers on the podium, not just one. If that race would have ended behind the safety car. But you know what? Had by chance Lewis Hamilton's car suffered a mechanical failure or puncture, they'd have got a 1-2. And that would have won them the championship. But no, they employed the sacrificial lamb. Who's exposed that? Why was he the sacrificial lamb? What would he have... Speculation, because again, this bit's not factual, because I can't back this up. Because it didn't happen. So I'll tell you it didn't happen, so it's not a fact. Okay? It's not a generally accepted fact, because it's not. Okay? But it's something to question. Why did Red Bull retire Perez? Strange. Extremely strange.
Almost. They short fuel Perez so he was light and racy enough to back up Lewis into Max.
Perez playing the old.
So they ran a car, short fueled him, so that he couldn't finish the race. Is that what it was? And had Nicholas Latifi not crashed, what would short fueling do to Perez? I wonder.
Ultimate team game here for Max Verstappen, and this is really frustrating Lewis Hamilton. It's going to be hurting his tyres a little bit as well.
And crucially for Verstappen's championship hopes, unlike Valtteri Bottas, Checo got the assignment because Checo would cost Lewis a net 7 seconds, and that would prove vital.
You know, we'd used Sergio Perez earlier in the race to try and back Lewis up, to give Max a chance.
Back him up.
So
let's go back to this. The top 5 reasons you can't blame Michael Masi for Abu Dhabi, for doing what he did at Abu Dhabi, is because Red Bull used Sergio Perez to back Lewis Hamilton up. Alright, so again, let's relate this to football. The top 5 reasons you can't blame the referee for making a corrupt decision and awarding one of the teams a penalty that they shouldn't have had to ensure that they won, right? You can't blame the referee for that, because one of the teams used one of their defenders to mark one of their players really well. Fuck me.
Put Mercedes in a dilemma. We had nothing to lose.
Because
we put Mercedes in a dilemma because we had nothing to lose. This is the thing we're hearing all the time. Red Bull had nothing to lose. Red Bull had nothing to lose. Red Bull had nothing to lose. Red Bull played some clever cards. Red Bull played some clever cards. Red Bull played some clever cards. Red Bull played their joker. Red Bull played their joker. Mercedes had a bad strategy. Mercedes had a bad strategy. Right? What is any of that? What is any of that shit? Mind conditioning. It's all irrelevant. Pit strategy becomes null and void if the race doesn't resume. If the race ends under a safety car, as the rules dictate, pit strategy isn't even a factor. As long as your tyres get you to the end of the race at safety car speed, it doesn't matter, because nobody is allowed to overtake you for race position. So if it ends behind the safety car, your position is fixed. It stays where it is. Doesn't matter what sort of tyres you've got on. Doesn't matter what your strategy is.
But for this, Lewis would have had the free pit stop and Mercedes would have been able to cover off Verstappen.
Which they didn't need to. They didn't need to do that, because if the rules are followed, it's a safety car finish, so what you're talking about is an irrelevance. An absolute irrelevance.
Perspective of any safety car. There would have been no joker for Red Bull to play.
There would have been no joker for Red Bull to play. Right, okay. You talk me through the sports, right? Talk me through the sports where you're playing your game of sport and one of the teams goes, we're going to play our joker now. Stop, ref. Stop. We're going to play our joker. What the fuck's one of them? Is it in the rules and regulations of Formula 1 that every race a team has a joker to play? When they play their joker, any shit can happen. No. It's not one of the rules, is it, Cameron? Stop giving us the bullshit.
Horner, it seems, was living rent-free in Toto's head.
The kids will love that one. Horner is living rent-free in Toto's head. Yeah, the 14-year-old little fucking wankers that like that term, oh, they'll be loving that. They'll be loving that. That'll almost cause them to squirt, Cameron. Don't arouse them too much too early, okay? They can play the long game.
Christian's mind game saw the usually stoic Toto become uncharacteristically erratic, beside himself at times. Horner and his right-hand man Wheatley.
Oh, his right-hand man. What does he do with that right hand, eh? What do you do, Wheatley? What do you do?
Were astute, crafty even. I mean, they stop at nothing to get at the...
Well, you stop at nothing. So you cozied up to the referee so that you could corrupt him, so that you could get him to act on your behalf. But it was far more than just that. Because, you know, you've got Michael Massey here. You've got this guy sat next to him. You've got this guy here in the top corner. You've got this guy here. You've got a guy behind Massey. You've got somebody at this screen. There's likely to be in excess of 10 people in race control. They all know the rules of the sport. They all know what's going on. They've all been there numerous times before, seeing these rules go on. You'd expect them to know. If you've got a job in this profession, you'd expect to be proficient, professional, know what your job entails, know the rules of the sport. But oh no, it was just an error by one guy who was just under pressure. It wasn't the whole fucking FIA all in there knowing what the fuck was happening and doing nothing about it. In fact, enabling it.
Soft regulatory underbelly that was race director Michael Massey. Because they...
They got at the soft underbelly of the race director, Michael Massey. Oh, that's a good reason why we can't blame Michael Massey, is it? Because Red Bull got at the soft underbelly that is Michael Massey. And that's a reason not to blame Massey. Let's listen to that again, Cameron.
To get at the soft regulatory underbelly that was race director Michael Massey. Because
Red Bull were able to get at the soft underbelly that was race director Michael Massey. So that's in your top reasons why you can't blame Michael Massey for making a corrupt decision at Abu Dhabi. Fuck me.
Correctly identified Michael Massey as get-atable, the culmination.
Oh, Red Bull were able to correctly identify that Michael Massey was get-atable. So that's a reason we can't blame Michael Massey. We can't blame Michael Massey for the fact that he was corruptible by one of the teams. Fucking brilliant, Cameron. Where do I fucking subscribe? In fact, if you've got an option, where can I donate? Where can I send you a fucking super thanks? Are you going to send me a fucking VIP box if I do? Fucking brilliant. Can't wait.
Of this, Abu Dhabi 21. Horner's mob raced hard and they were street smart and ultimately...
They were street smart? What's that all about? What's the relevance of any of that? The race director made a corrupt decision that changed the outcome of the race. How can Red Bull be smart and street fucking fighters or whatever you're trying to call them?
Ultimately, when this mattered, this will tell the tale.
The top 5 reasons you can't blame Michael Massey for Abu Dhabi 2021. Number 3, Mercedes mistakes. You can't blame Michael Massey for cheating because Mercedes made some mistakes. You can't blame the referee in the Champions League final for giving Real Madrid that penalty against Manchester City when the foul was on the halfway line because Man City made some mistakes in that game. How many times? How many times does he come up with a reason that is utterly irrelevant? Nothing he's said so far is relevant. Nothing. Nothing.
In the clutch, the 8-time constructors would make critical mistakes at the wrong times, and this would ultimately cost them the championship.
Right. So, as I say, we go into Abu Dhabi. They're level on points. There were numerous controversial, we'll use the term controversial, numerous controversial events throughout the season that we had to accept. They put them down as judgment calls when it can be clearly evidenced that Max Verstappen should have been penalised on numerous occasions and wasn't. Okay? But we got there level on points. All that was required was to see who finished higher in a point scoring position would determine the outcome. The reason we can't blame Massey for fixing it in Abu Dhabi was because of Bahrain qualifying. What? The fuck are you talking about, man? Every single thing that you're saying is utter bollocks.
In Bahrain quali, Verstappen got a toe from his teammate, dropped it on pole.
You can't blame Michael Massey because in Bahrain, Verstappen got a toe from his teammate and Mercedes didn't employ that strategy.
Oh my
God!
Max Verstappen so far,
who wants to try and improve on his time so far and is not looking good to do that.
Mercedes elected not to do the same. Why? Optimising for Bottas's qualifying.
Right, Mercedes are shit. Let's be clear. Okay, let's be clear. I will call out Mercedes were diabolical. Their strategy calls are atrocious. It almost seems like it's self-sabotage. But you know what? It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant to the outcome because the only thing relevant to the outcome is what was done on that last lap that broke the rules of the sport. Because if the rules of the sport were not broken, Mercedes would have still have won. Lewis Hamilton would have still have won, despite all of their shitness, despite all of the things that they did and the decisions that they made, which were shit. Let's be clear, they were shit. They prevented Lewis from getting many points that season. Their judgment calls, their strategy calls were atrocious. They always have been, and they've continued to be. They are dog shit. But that was not the determining factor of the 2021 championship, and it's not a reason that you can excuse, not blame Michael Massey for breaking the rules of the sport to manufacture it for Max Verstappen to win. But this is what you, Cameron F1, are presenting as being something that is a factor. You're a snake. You're an absolute snake.
Fine performance was their focus. Strategically, Red Bull would run circles around Mercedes, not least in France.
Oh, you can't blame the referee for awarding that penalty when the foul was on the halfway line to give Real Madrid the win of the game that they shouldn't have got, because tactically Real Madrid were much better than Manchester City. Okay, let's not blame the referee then.
France, where the strategy was a two-stopper, Mercedes opted for one. This will cost Lewis the race.
You can't blame Michael Massey because in this race, was it France? Mercedes opted for a one-stop strategy instead of a two-stop strategy. Is this another one of your valid points, Cameron? That all you little fanboys there in the comment section are going to go, oh, fucking great video, Cam. Some brilliant points you made there. Fucking fantastic exposure. Absolutely brilliant, mate. Fucking well put together.
And that would be a 14-point swing. 14. It's worth noting that this...
It's worth noting that you're not mentioning the Belgian parade, Cameron, where there was no sport, there was no race. So all that happened is that they paraded the cars around the track for 2 or 3 laps. Nobody was allowed to compete, meaning there was no competition. But the FIA said, you've seen a race and somebody won that. But how can somebody win if there's not a competition? But you don't say anything about that, do you, Cameron? You don't say anything about that. Strange, that.
By itself would have made Michael Massey's decision of 0 consequence. Lewis would have won.
Oh, if the drivers at different races throughout the season would have got a different amount of points, then maybe it wouldn't have come down to the last race of the season, and therefore we can excuse Michael Massey for fixing it on the last race of the season. Fucking hell! Every single thing that's coming out of this fraudulent motherfucker's mouth is fucking fraudulent validation. And you know what, Cameron? The sport of Formula 1 is going to reach out to you so you can make some videos with an exclusive interview which will make you more money. Or they might give you free tickets to the Silverstone Grand Prix because now you're in with the sport. That's what happens, Cameron. I'm waiting for my free tickets. I'm sure the sport of Formula 1 is going to reach out to me. Happy fucking days.
The championship. But there were costly mistakes on track too.
And he was just very unlucky. Bottas, I think, could get some big penalties.
Great magic.
Perez tried to cut off Hamilton. Oh!
It's not Michael Massey's fault that he's fixed the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix because Mercedes have got brake magic and Lewis forgot to press the button at the Baku Grand Prix.
Goes straight on. Perez leads from Sebastian Vettel.
25 points lost. And even in Abu Dhabi, grizzled F1 vets have questioned the timing of Lewis's go.
Grizzled F1 vets are questioning the timing of... This bit is crazy. This bit is crazy. This is a validatory reason as to why you can't blame Michael Massey for fixing that outcome.
Off the restart. Why not go when Max was alongside you?
It has left Lewis.
The reason you can't blame Michael Massey for fixing it. And let's be clear. Let's be clear about the fact that he fixed it. What he did, he broke the rules of the sport to produce that illegal last lap. But he did so in a position of knowledge. He did so in a position where he was aware that Lewis Hamilton was on old, hard tyres, and he was aware that Max Verstappen was on new, soft tyres, with a pace advantage of circa 2 seconds per lap. And in the event of two cars competing against each other in those circumstances, one of them cars is odds-on favourite to emerge the victor, to get round that lap quicker and have a far greater chance of overtaking the other car. That is a known. He knew that. He broke the rules and he set that scenario up. So that is a known fix. Massey did that. And you are suggesting we can't blame Michael Massey for doing that. One of the problems is that Lewis Hamilton went a bit at the wrong time before that lap began. No, that's not the problem. Cameron, let me explain this to you. That's not the problem, chicken. Okay? That's not the problem. The problem is that lap should never have existed. That lap was a safety car lap. It's nothing to do with when Lewis Hamilton had to start racing that lap, which he shouldn't have had to do. But grizzled F1 veterans believe that Lewis Hamilton went at the wrong time. Is that right, mate? That's really insightful, that is. Yeah. Yeah, you're damn right, Cameron. Fuck yeah. Lewis Hamilton's fault that he lost that. Yeah, because he's shit. He's shit. He doesn't know shit. Yeah. That's right. Fucking strap on. Greatest ever driver we've ever seen. Yeah, we fucking love Verstappen. We love you, Cameron, as well. We fucking love you, Cameron. You know everything. You're brilliant. Validator, duplicator.
Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen side by side.
When the Dutchman's steering angle would have been too acute, prohibiting him from going full throttle.
Oh, the steering angle being too acute. Now we're getting really technical about this, aren't we, Cameron? Let's make it sound like we know what we're fucking talking about. Irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant to the fact that should not have taken place.
Charles in Bahrain 22.
Yep. Trying to hustle the guy who's about...
Because this is how Charles did it at Bahrain 2022. And had Lewis have done that, well, what would have happened? It would have still been the same outcome, because Verstappen would have just taken him down the straight in between turn 5 and turn 6. Because he'd have got him by then, because he'd have made it around the turns. He'd have got around turn 5 quicker, setting him up for that straight, and the overtake would have been there. So, nothing to do with it. Irrelevant. The only thing relevant is that lap should never have taken place. Simple as that. It's not up for discussion. It's not up for discussion and for debate as to, oh, no, he wouldn't. He wouldn't have taken him down at turn 6, because that's what the strap-on boys would try and engage in. Oh, let's all have an argument about whether he would or whether he wouldn't have taken him at a different point on the track. It's irrelevant. Shh. It's irrelevant. The lap should not have taken place. So all of this is bollocks.
And he's left himself very tight on that last corner, actually, has Mac.
And why was Lewis clipping so early down the straight?
Why was Lewis clipping so early down the straight? Well, you tell us. Tell us, Cameron. You tell us. Is this a conventional overtaking position on this track? Answers in the comments section. No, I'll tell you. The answer is no. What he's doing is trying to ensure that he takes a line into this corner, which gives him, this is Lewis I'm talking about, which gives him the best exit speed, because actually the overtaking point on this track is actually at the end of this straight that he's about to go onto. So Lewis needs to get a good entry onto that straight to try and ensure that Max Verstappen doesn't get the toe behind him on this straight, to try and make sure he can defend at turn 6. So Lewis is taking the wide angle. Once again, that Max Verstappen puts in a late lunge forcing Lewis wide, having to make him deviate his line around the corner, which he shouldn't have to do when he's ahead at the braking zone, when he's at the car length ahead at the braking zone, shouldn't have to yield as he's mid-corner. But Verstappen's allowed that. He's been enabled all season. But also, Lewis can't then make this all that a hard, aggressive corner because his tyres aren't capable of that. But it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. Why is Lewis Hamilton clipping here? That's a reason why we shouldn't blame Michael Massey. It's irrelevant. You see, even me getting into the mechanics of what the problem is, it's not even a problem because it shouldn't be a problem because it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. The lap shouldn't exist. So how Lewis drove that lap is irrelevant. Trying to analyse what Lewis did on that lap is irrelevant. Oh, we'll blame Lewis Hamilton for the way he drove on that lap. Because even though that lap shouldn't have existed, we'll criticise how Lewis drove it. You criticise Lewis for doing it, yeah? You know, the 8-time world champion that's won 104 Grand Prix. I think he would know how his car is feeling and handling and what line he feels he needs to take around that track in order to get the best lap time, in order to best give him chance of maintaining position. I think he might be the person, the one single person in this world best placed to make that judgment. Not you, Cameron. I think that Lewis got it wrong by why was his Mercedes clipping at this point in time on this lap that shouldn't be taking place. Silly Lewis, what is he doing? Thanks for your insight, Cameron. Thanks for your truly valuable insight. Cock.
Wrong engine mode on the preceding laps. Who knows? All we know.
Clearly not you, Cameron. Clearly not you. But you know, you made us a video to show us what you know. You made us a video to tell us all what you know. And you know what, Cameron? With all these adverts in there as well, you're going to make loads of money. Loads of money.
What I know for certain is that Mercedes made mistakes, championship deciding ones. What's more politically
Mercedes made championship deciding mistakes. What was the thing that decided the championship? What was the one thing that decided the championship? Because they were on course to win the championship. And what changed that? Oh, Mercedes made mistakes. No, they were on course to win it. What changed that? Oh, Mercedes made mistakes. No, they were on course to win it. What changed that? Well, it wasn't. There's 5 reasons why you can't blame Michael Massey for that. Why not? He was the man that, knowing the rules of the sport, has demonstrated that he knows the rules of the sport, has got experience, has got a track record. I've proven what he knows. I've proven the occasions where he's demonstrated what he knows. So he clearly has the knowledge and the consequence of what was taking place. He has the full knowledge of the implications of what he was doing. So he knew what he was doing, and he broke the rules of the sport to manufacture that one lap which he knew what the outcome was likely to be. He fixed it. Oh, but Mercedes made mistakes. No, Cameron. No, Cameron. I don't know if I can explain this to you in another way. I don't know whether I need to draw you a picture. I don't know, whether I need to let you play in the fucking sandpit or something like that, whether that help you're learning. But fuck me. You're dog shit.
Mercedes and Toto were naive, too often a passive bystander, watching on as grizzled vets Wheatley and Horner got stuck into a fallible inexperience.
Oh, it was Mercedes' fault for not having a go at the referee because the grizzled veterans, Horner and Wheatley, were there coercing the referee. So it's Mercedes' fault for not doing that as well.
Michael Massey.
So Lewis, apparently no investigation necessary for running you off track.
Michael, we just call it let them race for our driver trying to run the other car off the track, and if he doesn't move off the track, there's a crash that means that he'll win the championship. Oh, is that when Michael Schumacher got disqualified from the entire season for doing that? Oh yeah, I think that's what happened. But Max not only did that in Brazil, he also did that at Saudi, and I'm not talking about the brake test. So twice within those last 4 races, which Lewis had to win all 4 of them, which he did, had the rules of the sport been followed. Max tries to take him out. Twice by trying to take him off the track, and once with a brake test. And Schumacher got disqualified for a season. But it's Mercedes that made some mistakes.
Of course, man. Of course. Christian and Michael.
Yes, go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, why are we getting these lap cars out of the way?
Well, Christian, shut the fuck up, because I'm doing my job. I'm clearing up a safety incident. There's men on the track, and you shut up, and I'm doing my job. When the clerk of the course tells me that that car is out of the way, the debris off the track, the barriers are checked, and the marshals are all clear of the track, then I will do the unlapping procedure. Once that's done, if there's time to go racing, we go racing. If there's no time left, the race finishes behind the safety car. That's what the rules of the sports are. Shut the fuck up. What does Michael say?
Because, Christian, just give me a second.
We only need 1 racing lap.
And critically, the protest after Abu Dhabi.
Critically?
Should have been more robust, but true to form, when they needed to be at their most aggressive, they were passive. Mercedes...
Critically, the appeal needed to be more robust, but Mercedes, rather than challenge the fact that the FIA were being corrupt, were passive. So it's Mercedes' fault. It's Mercedes' fault that the FIA stewards, determining the stewards' appeal at the end of the race, were corrupt. Another fantastic reason, Cameron. Another fantastic reason.
At the very least, should have seen the protest through, taken it to the International Court of Appeal.
Yes, they should. They should. Do you want to talk us through that FIA stewards' appeal, Cameron? The fact that Mercedes were protesting to, in effect, the FIA, because that's who their stewards are. So Mercedes were protesting to the FIA that the FIA had broken the rules of the sport. Right? And what the FIA did was allow Red Bull into that appeal to present on behalf of the FIA. Does that sound normal? And again, strap on fans, that if you're still with us, you might think that that's normal. You might think that that is okay. It's not. Okay, I don't want to get into the technicalities because you'll only want to have an argument in the comment section, and you'll come up with some bullshit that you will know nothing about, but you'll still class it as your evidence and your facts. But again, this is the mindless shit that you're into. In fact, take yourself over and subscribe to Cameron F1. You'll love him. You'll love him. He'll tell you everything you want. Right? You'll love him. You'll love him. Stick with Cameron.
Surely. Since Charlie Whiting's tragic passing, the support team around the race director.
The top 5 reasons you can't blame Michael Massey for Abu Dhabi is the FIA. Because the FIA are corrupt and Michael Massey works for the FIA. So therefore he's also corrupt. So you can't blame him for being corrupt. Thank you for that, Cameron. Thank you for that. Solid reasoning. You know what? I'll tell you what. When we go to court, can you be our barrister? I think you'll win us everything, mate. Fucking brilliant you are. Top marks.
Director has been, well, a little flaky, lacking, let's say. The regs and the sporting code of conduct, the foundation on which Michael Massey has to make all of his decisions, are too complicated.
I love this, Cameron. I love this bit. Wait there. Here we go.
Little flaky, lacking, let's say. The regs and the sporting code of conduct, the foundation on which Michael Massey has to make all of his decisions, are too complicated.
See, the reason we can't blame Michael Massey is that the regulations of the sport are too complicated. What's that, Cap? You don't understand the rules and regulations of the sport, Cameron, but you've set yourself up as a YouTuber educating people about the sport. Oh, man, that's flawed, isn't it? That's a bit of a problem. I don't really know what's going on here because it's all a bit complicated, but I'm going to tell you that we're going to be doing some stress testing to do an evaluation and examine the facts. Oh, is that what you're doing, is it, Cameron? Yeah, we're going to challenge the conventionally accepted opinions and facts. You're not really doing that, are you, Cameron? Yeah, but the rules are a bit complicated, aren't they, though? So we don't really know what we're doing, do we? Yeah, we do. Pretty simple. Explained it at the start, mate. When racing stops due to a safety incident through the deployment of the safety car or a red flag, racing stops. In order to start it again, you have to ensure that those restart conditions are applied to all competitors in the race. That's called sporting fairness. Do you understand that, Cameron? Are you able to follow, or is it too complicated for you? Clearly the latter. Clearly the latter, Cameron. Okay? Well, have you got your, do you stick your GCSE certificates up on the wall? Oh, what's that? Hasn't got any. Fair enough. Not to worry. But you're a good YouTuber, mate, aren't you? Fair enough, with all this intelligence you've got.
Open to interpretation. Put simply.
The rules are open to interpretation. Tell me a sport where rules are open to interpretation. You have rules, and they're the rules. You have some sports where the referee makes a judgment call. He doesn't decide whether the rule's the rule or not, right? He judges whether what he sees constitutes a foul or not, and whether the severity of that foul constitutes a red card or a yellow card. Okay? That's not him determining what the rules are. The rules are the rules, but he makes a judgment call. When carrying out procedures that relate to the termination of racing, the suspension of racing due to a safety incident, you're not making a judgment call as to which competitors you are going to allow to race from there onwards. You're just carrying out the procedures that enable all competitors to race from there onwards. And if them procedures cannot be carried out correctly, there is no more racing. They're the rules of the sport. That's not a judgment call. You can't just say, oh, well, I can't carry out those procedures, but you know what? I'd just like to see if by not playing by the rules, who would win if we just set it up for just a race between him and him. I know that guy is strong favourite, but shall we just see what happens anyway? Is that your notion of interpretation? Cheers for that, Cam. Cheers for that. You're an insightful F1 analyst.
They're not fit for purpose when it comes to modern day F1.
What's not fit for purpose? Is this the rules? You're saying the rules are not fit for purpose. I've just clearly explained what the rules are and why they are for them. They're clearly fit for purpose because they're still using them now. They were fit for purpose from 2012 onwards. They were fit for purpose right up until Abu Dhabi. We're saying that in Abu Dhabi they weren't fit for purpose, but they're still the same rules. You think that something's changed by them. Oh, we've changed the rules now because they used to say the word any, but now they say all. So that means now they're completely different. No, Cam, no, that's not what it is. And not fit for purpose, we're talking about the rules. Are we talking about Michael Massey? Or are we talking about you? Or just two of them things? Because the rules are fit for purpose. They're fine.
F1. There are 1,000 potential infractions every single race. We just look at Austria this year. FI's regulatory...
Yeah, 1,000, okay. How does that relate to Abu Dhabi? I mean, we can't blame Michael Massey for fixing the outcome in Abu Dhabi 2021 because in Austria this year, lots of cars were penalised for track limits. The strap-on boys. Yeah, but what about Bahrain? Yeah, but what about Bahrain? Okay, all right. We'll talk you through Bahrain at some point, kids. We'll talk you through that. Just when I get time. That's not high on the agenda. That is the tiniest of side issues. Yeah, but that's my facts. That's my evidence. That's my facts. All right, okay, whatever. Okay, I'll talk you through it, and you'll see the error of your ways, kids.
Infrastructure then was built on a house of cards, thus setting up massive...
The FIA infrastructure is built on a house of cards. Correct. That's the best thing you've said all presentation. The FIA infrastructure is built on a house of cards. Okay, so what you're saying is the FIA is corrupt. We can't blame Michael Massey for being corrupt because the FIA is corrupt. That's valid, isn't it? That's a great excuse. We can't blame this criminal from doing his crime because they're all criminals. Great reasoning, that is. Superb reasoning.
Go for a fall of epic proportions. To that mess apply a season fraught with controversy, warring factions, and a final race decider. All that the FIA has done here is make a rod for Michael Massey's back. The role was up.
The FIA fixed the season, so therefore all they've done is make it difficult for the FIA race director. The FIA themselves have all conducted themselves corruptly, and so therefore they've made it for the difficult for the FIA race director. Fucking hell.
Poison chalice for Pete's sake. To boot, this fella was overworked and underpaid. He was there every...
Michael Massey was overworked. He's just like one of them nurses that has to work 70 hours a week in the NHS hospital for 30 grand a year. Poor old Michael Massey had to go to 22 Grand Prix around the world. Oh, you know, he's overworked and he gets paid a shitload of money for it. It's so difficult and challenging for him, isn't it, Cameron? So difficult.
Single race, just like the drivers.
He has to go to every single race. Fuck me, mate. I'm gonna learn to play the violin just because it makes me so sad how difficult things are for Michael Massey. Fuck me.
But with zero chance of glory. All that awaited...
He's a referee. He's got no chance of glory. Yeah, it's not the referee's fault. He's overworked because he's got to go to all 22 Grand Prix, being flown around the world, getting put up in luxury hotels, getting paid a shitload of money. But there's no chance of glory for him. Cock.
Michael Massey was the hatred of millions of F1 fans.
Michael Massey was the hatred of millions of F1 fans. Now, you see, what sporting official do fans hate? A lot of sporting officials are pretty nondescript. They're not a talking point. They only become a talking point when things are done wrongly. You know, you don't talk about things that were, you know, when was the last time you say, oh, the referee was absolutely incredible. The referee was man of the match in that game. The referee was amazing. But it's not about that, is it? The referee should be unnoticeable because they're just there to carry out the rules of the sport and make the right judgment calls. And if they do that, there's no controversy. There's no problem. There's no issue. Nothing to discuss. You wouldn't even know his name. And then there'd be no aggro. There'd be no controversy. There'd be no talking points. Because it all went... Everyone can look at the situation. Yeah, that happened. And that was the result of it. That's the decision made. Yeah, that's fair. That's what you should do. oh, but it's not his fault because there's no chance of glory for him.
All around the world, no fair. I mean, did he make an unprecedented call to enable a one-lap shootout?
Yes, he did. Are you asking that as a question, or you're making it as a statement of fact, Cameron? Because it sounds very much like a question to me. You know, you let me know in the comments section whether you think Massey made an unprecedented call or not. He did. It was an invalid call. It cheated. It fixed the outcome of the race. It changed the outcome of the World Championship. Are you still undecided about that, Cameron?
Absolutely. Did Massey sacrifice sporting integrity at the altar of sports entertainment? Maybe. But why?
Did he sacrifice sporting integrity for entertainment? Maybe. Yeah, maybe he did. How about say, well, absolutely he did. Absolutely he did. And that's disgusting. Because sport is sport. We're not manufacturing outcomes just to try and entertain a certain portion of fans. Because then that's not sport. That's called fixing outcomes. And that's illegal. That's fraudulent. That's fraudulent. That's a global fraud.
Why? Well, because of the number one reason why you can't blame Michael Massey for Abu Dhabi 21.
The number one reason why you can't blame Michael Massey for Abu Dhabi 2021. I know, sorry this is a long one, even I'm getting tired of it now. But you can see how much bullshit. This is fucking ludicrous. But anyway, here we go.
Now, ever since Liberty Media became the commercial rights holder in 2017, there's been a push to make a mainstream commodity out of the sport of F1.
There you go. Make a mainstream commodity out of a sport. Commercial. It's all about the money. Okay? It's all about the money. And I said this from the start. It's been manufactured for money. Simple as that. They manufactured a close title battle that went down somehow to the last race of the season, but then they manufactured a last lap shootout, which they got their driver that they wanted to win, the new face of the sport, to become the champion. It was all manufactured for money. That's what it was.
Through social media, through Netflix's Drive to Survive, and when 2021, a once-in-a-lifetime type season, just
a once-in-a-lifetime type season, like like the championship being decided on the last race of the season. Similar to what was it, Brazil 2012, was it? Or was it? Well, I think it was a Brazilian 2012 Grand Prix. I might be wrong. Was it the one where Vettel won the championship on the last race of the season? The one where the race ended behind a safety car because Paul Di Resta binned it with 2 laps to go. I might be wrong on the year, but it did happen. Around about 10 years ago. Once in a lifetime. Once in a, the average lifespan of, 75, 80 years. Twice in 10 years, or once in a lifetime.
fell into Liberty Media's laps while they were incentivized.
It didn't fall into their laps. It was manufactured, and that can easily be evidenced.
To squeeze it for all that it was worth in a grandstand last lap shootout for all the marbles. It's just what the doctor ordered. And
a grandstand shootout for all of the marbles is what. Fucking hell. Who is this clown?
Media's laps while they were incentivized to squeeze it for all that it was worth in a grandstand last lap shootout for all the marbles. It's just what the doctor ordered. And
it's just what the doctor ordered. Yeah. Okay.
I think in hindsight, it's this that gave rise to a ton of dodgy decisions. 5 cars can unlap themselves, but not the other 3. There's no time.
A ton of dodgy decisions. So he's going through Massey's dodgy decisions. 5 cars can, but not the other 3. What did that produce? Well, that produced 2 blockers blocking off third from even challenging. So that separated out 2 cars from the rest of the competitors to create a race off for a win. That's not allowed in Grand Prix racing. You can't separate out just two competitors in a multi-competitor event, whether that's motor racing, whether that's cycling, whether that is athletics. You cannot just pick out two competitors and go, we'll just let you two race off for the win in this one. So that's not by the rules. That's what that produced. There was time to actually unlap them, but regardless, you have to do the mandatory safety car lap to give them released cars the opportunity to make it around the track and rejoin the back of the pack. That's what the rules dictate. That ensures sporting fairness. That ensures that you get to the restart conditions being in the correct race order first, down to the last remaining competitor, all in the correct order, and hopefully with almost identical gaps of around about half a second in between each competitor. Then you can go racing again. There's your sporting fairness. That's what the rules and regulations are there for. That's what they're worded for that way, to produce that scenario. Simple.
Safety car is in, and even though the regs said there should be another additional lap, not going to do it this time. No time. Max is aggressive.
We're not going to do it. There's no time. We haven't got time. So if we haven't got time to do it, well, you haven't got time for a racing lap, have you? Because you've got time to do that, which means you don't have the racing lap. That's how it works. Simple. But what you're doing, you're validating. You're validated. What are you doing? You're conditioning, further conditioning of the narrative. Further conditioning of the narrative. Taking your filthy, filthy money and presenting the bullshit. You're scum. You are absolute scum.
Over crowd, turn 4 Brazil, no investigation. Grid place penalty for Lewis.
Wait there, wait there.
Safety car is in, and even though the regs said there should be another additional lap, not going to do it this time. No time. Max is aggressive over crowd, turn 4 Brazil, no investigation.
Max's aggressive over crowd at turn 4 Brazil. That's called driving another car off the track. And had they not taken evasive action by driving off the track, it'd have caused a crash. That's what happened. It's not an aggressive overcrowd. It's knowingly and purposefully driving another car off the track. Putting your car in a position where, unless they yield and get themselves off the track, there will be a crash. That's a penalty that should result in at least a race ban. As I say, Schumacher was disqualified from the season for knowingly and purposefully trying to take out another driver. Max Verstappen did that not only in Brazil, he did it in Saudi, turn 1. And he did the same with the brake test in Saudi. 3 times. 3 times.
Investigation. Grid pace penalty for Lewis for a 2mm rear wing infringement. Brake test, 5-second penalty. Now, it'd be so much easier to land all of this on Michael Massey's doorstep. But you know, I wasn't buying it then, and I'm not buying it now.
So all this happened due to the FIA. All this happened due to the FIA, which Massey is part of. It was all wrong, but we can't blame Michael Massey for it. We can't blame Michael Massey for then, despite all that, and despite Lewis still being then, surviving all of that, and still being on course to win, Massey then having to break the rules to manufacture it for Max again. But we can't blame Michael Massey for that. We can't blame him for that. Fucking hell, but I'm tired out. I'm tired out.
That race ending on the safety car was anticlimactic. It was like a...
that race ending behind the safety car was anticlimactic. And that's it, Cameron. You've always got to make sure the kids climax. You've always got to make sure the kids climax. You're doing a great job of that, Cameron.
Draw. Liberty Media is an American company, remember, and draws don't happen in American sports. Now, you best believe Abu Dhabi was a watershed moment. That was the day when F1 became less of a sport than it is entertainment. There you have it. Liberty Media, the #1 reason why you can't blame Michael Massey for Abu Dhabi 21. If you like that one, you'll love.
Right. I'll come back to that in a second right there.
One reason why you can't blame Michael Massey for Abu Dhabi 21. If you like.
Wait there. Now I would love to see what real people, what genuine quality F1 analysts that call the situation out properly have got to say about this. I'd love to see what FF1 has to say about that video. And I'd love to see what Boy10 Dio says about that video. I think he would produce a far better analysis of Cameron's video than I did. But anyway, back to Cameron. If we like that one.
Like that one, you'll love this one on why Max Verstappen may never be the greatest.
Right. If you like that one, then you'll like this one. Now, before I play you this one, I'm the kind of man that likes to call a wanker a snake charmer. You know, I'm just quite straight talking like that. Some things are what they are.
The bonus, Sean, £290. Please take a square. On the right. 5 seconds, here we go. £290. What do you think it is? Tip the waiter. You're not right. Marita's back in play. Here's a catch.
It's good, but it's not right. But let me know what you'd say in the comment section. Let me know what you think in the comment section.
Yes. Come on, Marita. Come on, Sean. You got to buzz in. There it comes, Marita.
Clean as mustard.
You're right. £280 in the bonus, Marita. Can you solve it? Here we go. Marita.
Song and Dance Man.
Song and Dance Man's good. It's not the one. Sean.
It's good, but it's not right. Let me know what you think in the comment section, strap-on fans.
It's another one. Sean, sorry, Marita.
Long story?
Long story's good, it's not the one. Keep pressing. Marita.
Cut the story short.
Press again.
It's good, but it's not right.
Tell me question. Sean.
To cut a long story short.
Cut a long story short, that's the one we want. Here comes the bonus. Sean, we're going to have to speaker or run out of time.
No idea, sorry.
You've no idea. Well, that signal means we've run out of time. Take a look at the stuff. Marita's got £235. Sean's got £1,295. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I have £260 in the bonus bank. It's got to be one. I'm going to wipe the board. The first person with the right answer wins £260. Watch your screens. Concentrate. Here we go.
Snake charmer.
Cameron F1, Snake Charmer.